everyone, it is Monday. We have made it to the end of the week. I know that sounds weird. I'm going to mention this again, but my week does not run because of when I have to work. I have to work the weekend, so my week runs Thursday to Monday. My work week. Obviously, Tuesday and Wednesday still exist. They're just my weekend. But it's Monday, and I'm here. And this may seem really late in comparison to what I've done the others, but basically I have to work Monday evening. So rather than, because I had experimented with always studying in the morning, and then like having the afternoon off and then working in the evening. But the problem is that it sucks. It just sucks. It's much easier for me to do everything in one block, because otherwise you find that time you have off, you just sort of get left like having this impending sense of needing to do something, so not quite being able to settle. And I think this is actually the first time I've done this properly, because it is the first time I've made it to Monday and still turned up to studying. I can't tell you how awesome this is. I'm really surprised, because yesterday I was ruined. And like yesterday I did all of my studying and I did all of my working, but it was definitely a miracle that I managed that. So the fact that, I think it helps that what I did today is I got out of bed at 10 to 2. I wasn't asleep until 10 to 2. But I think as much as sleeping in a specific time, including limiting how much I sleep, because that's quite important, my depression can make me sleep too long, and then that makes me feel worse and it makes sleeping harder. And I realised as someone with chronic insomnia, it's weird to also say that I sleep too much. Basically, I really struggle getting to sleep, with the exception of when my pain is bad. Once I am asleep, I'm okay. I don't generally tend to wake up in the night unless it's pain related. So most of the time I do try and limit how much I'm sleeping, but actually being able just every now and then to go, you know what, I'm choosing to use this entire morning to stay in bed. And actually I think I probably needed to, because I feel significantly less tired now. I think I have to remember that, like I think I was saying yesterday, my medication makes me really tired. All of my conditions make me really tired. Existing in 2020 makes me really tired, I'm sure it does everyone else. I know it does for many other people. So yeah, I think it was definitely the right decision, and I have felt much better since I got up a couple of hours ago. I have managed today, so obviously I'm sort of like, I'm studying from 2 till 5 today, so it's 3:45 now, so I'm just a bit past halfway through. And I have been reading one of the big, and I'm not going to pronounce this correctly, so I apologise if anyone around is, I want to say I think it's a Nordic tradition. I don't know which of the Nordic languages it's from. So I've been reading one of the Nude Punked books, which has been equal parts infuriating and awesome. There is an article, there's some manifestos in there about how you should be role-playing, and I don't fully agree with them, and I think they're partly in there as historical artifacts of the development of LARPing, but there were some very, good on them for having the gall to just outright say you should be doing this thing this way. I don't think you should. Not because I don't think, I think some of the, there were different manifestos that I think, if that's what you want to go for and you want to sign up to that manifesto, awesome, that's really cool. I don't mind that. And one of them actually was very quick to say, we just think we've identified a problem in current, what they call conventional LARP, and we think that this radical way, which includes things like, you should never include non-diegetic tools, which means things like everything that is present should be what it is. So to use this is actually a tabletop role-playing example, but to use a tabletop example, if you're the sort of DM who plays music in the background to be atmospheric, that is an example of something that's non-diegetic if it's not music the characters are hearing. So if you're in a tavern and you're playing tavern background music, that might actually be diegetic. But if you're playing, combat music that you got from Pillars of Eternity, as I often do, then that's something that isn't there because the characters are hearing it, unless you've got an interesting game world going on, in which case I want to play in your game world if there's just background music all the time. But yeah, so I can understand aiming for that, but then I think it also limits you in other ways. And then there was another manifesto that was sort of arguing for similar things, not quite along precisely the same lines, but was doing it in a very, if you do not do this, you are wrong way. And that was interesting to read. But the article I just read begins with an amazing anecdote about shoes in LARP. So anyone, if you are watching this and you are in the UK LARP scene, you'll know that shoes actually are quite controversial in UK LARP. There is a disagreement over so there's a really good quote actually that I've got in front of me that's from this article that says in terms of describing what the requirements of your game are. If that game is considered standard fare, the most instruction that you get is probably something like, we have high ambitions for the quality of equipment. And that's a phrase I've seen in loads of LARP descriptions. And the quote goes on to say, sometimes in Norway, that means they have a genuine 40s fishing boat, but pierced noses are still okay. And sometimes in Sweden, it means all goddamn shoes need to be handmade. And I don't mind. I've done LARP events in fully period sites, which are really cool. And absolutely, I wouldn't want to be, if I'm in a medieval style fantasy setting or some kind of historical setting, I don't want to look around and see that someone is wearing Converses next to the hut made of straw. That's the whole idea of LARPing. I think we call it suspension of disbelief a lot, but there's a theorist whose name I can't remember right now, who talks about it actually being the upholding of collective belief. And I really like that as an idea, because it's not so much, because it makes understanding why Converse trainers are a problem easier, because it's not that I have to suspend my disbelief of your trainers. It's that it's harder for me to uphold our collective belief that we're actually in the 1600s if I can see, your shoes. But there's a very big difference to me between really modern shoes or you talking on your mobile phone or something like that, and the fact that you're using an ink pen that's probably more advanced than would have been present in that period, or I don't see the difference between handmade shoes and shoes that don't look modern. And I'm sure that some people do, and I'm sure that's partly a product of the gaming cultures in which I've been raised, and the approach that I have towards role-playing. I probably wouldn't notice if you were wearing handmade shoes. I'd definitely notice if I was, because it would mean I wouldn't be able to participate. And that's one of the things that I think, one of the things that annoys me about that sort of really strict gaming culture. So one of those first manifestos I read, this is just going to be half an hour of me ranting, so I hope you're here for this. One of the first manifestos I read had basically 10 points that were very, and this was the one that actually acknowledged that they were just presenting one possible solution to this. So that side of that I liked. I didn't agree with a lot of their points. And interestingly, the Nude Punk book has the editor's comments in response to the articles, and both of the editors were like, they seem to have just amassed a collection of things that they don't like about role-playing and then just made it a manifesto and said, don't do these things that are our pet peeves. I can kind of get that from that sort of tone in the article. But there are some things about it that are good. But one of the things that really, really pissed me off is they end it by saying one of the reasons we think that this radical approach is, and some of the things they suggest are really radical, like things like everything has to be exactly what it is, and characters can't have any action in their backstory. They can have history, but it cannot involve any action. The LARP should be where all the action is, and they kind of badly define that, in my opinion, because I didn't quite get it. I feel like if I'm not getting it, then you haven't explained it very well. Where was I going with that? I don't know. I got so hyped up that I lost my train of thought. They went on to say, like, one of the reasons we think this radical approach is necessary is that LARPing right now is very white, middle class and male, and we really need to address that. And I do think that's true, and that is one of the things I'm writing about in my dissertation, is that the LARP group that I did most of my formative role-playing in, there were like 4 women out of 400 people, and we got a lot of microaggressions for that, and sort of the assumption that we couldn't play heavy combat parts, which then when my back was bad and I couldn't play combat parts, then like really messed with my opinion about am I a good role player, am I useful to this club, am I a productive member of this culture, that sort of thing. And it's a very hard group, not just that one specifically, but I think actually a lot of UK LARP is getting better, and you can go to places that are more diverse and more geared in that way, and I have done that. But it's very pervasive, and it's a huge problem, and also it's really, really white. It's painfully white. And I don't know if my auto captioner is captioning all of my words. No, it's not. I'm sorry. I need to... Actually, leaning forward a bit is awkward, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that closer to the edge, and hopefully that then doesn't make me too loud. I don't think it will. But it is actually captioning everything I'm saying now. So I 100% agree that this is a problem that needs to be solved. However, if you are that serious about it being a problem that needs to be solved, address it in your fucking manifesto. None of those 10 points they had included anything like, you know, let's make sure things are accessible. Let's make sure our recruitment goes to people outside of our social circle so we can get people that are from different backgrounds to us. Maybe we want to, you know, think about when we're hiring volunteers for games who we're hiring, and that's there was nothing in like racism and sexism and ableism and everything. They are all systemic, and unless you address them on a systemic level, you're never actually going to address them. You're just paying lip service to them. I think that's probably why I'm quite angry about this, because the shoes thing is ableist. And this might seem like a jump, but it actually isn't that much of a jump because it connects to a lot of things. I wouldn't be able to participate in outdoor LARP games if I was required to wear period shoes, because it would be really bad for my back, for my knees, for my hips, for everything if I wasn't wearing proper supported walking boots. My husband would have the same problem. I know loads of people. I've got a friend who's got an ankle injury and she can only go because she's wearing like really strapped up boots. And I know loads of people that have balance problems or just don't want to be in pain for 3 days when they're running round a forest. It's like, no, don't wear bright pink stripy trainers with spots on. I wouldn't want you to do that unless it's, appropriate for your setting, in which case go for it. But like, it's that sort of really strict. And I do agree that I think you need to be explicit in what you want out of the game. Otherwise, what you get out of the game is going to be what people assume is the norm. And I'm fine with that. But you have to be so careful that your rules don't end up excluding people even more and actually serving as a form of gatekeeping. Because also what you're saying is if everyone has to be in perfectly period handmade costume, you can just fuck off if you're lower class and have a lower income. Because you're not going to be, or if you're not going to be able to buy leather and hand stitch your own shoes, if you don't have enough time because you have children and a job, like it's just so exclusionary. To then end, I mean, I'm conflating like multiple things here, but I think they all sort of originate from the same thing. If you then end your manifesto by saying, oh, but we want to be inclusive, fuck off. I mean, also, I know that this thing that I'm yelling about is 21 years old. So let's bear in mind that I'm ranting about something that's, things have progressed since then, one would hope. And I think it has. I think it's still got really far to go, but things are definitely improving. And I think, especially with accessibility for games, that's something we really need to work on. Because there's a lot of things I'm thinking more and more, because I'm learning more about it, and I'm thinking of things like if you have any sort of hearing related problem, and this is something I'm learning about, but I don't quite have the language for yet, and I know that there's a lot of instances where language is in itself ableist, and I'm trying to make sure I use the correct terms for things. So if at any point I'm not, and you know otherwise, please do correct me, because I'd love to know. Because I know I'm very specific about what version of, like, I don't like mentally ill. I prefer person with a mental illness, but I don't like person with a disability. I prefer disabled person. So I'm a sort of a mixture of the two. Do I work out? This is sort of an academic vlog. I'm not really here to talk about my exercise regime, but also I have a chronic pain condition, so no, not right now, unfortunately, because I can't move that much. What was I saying? Yeah, so I was thinking about, because a lot of LARPing involves people wearing masks, including masks that completely cover their face. And I know that for people with hearing-related disabilities, seeing lips is really important, not having the voice muffled is really important. Obviously, you can't have captions in the real world, but things are also in place where you might be more spread out and it might be harder to hear. You could be in a combat and it's important. For example, one of the most important in combat role-playing, one of the most important calls is safety. There are variations on safety, so you've got like safety, man down, lots of different things based on that. If you can't hear that in a combat because it's loud, I know people who have like standard hearing who can't hear it. I've been in fights before where I haven't been able to hear someone screaming safety. I've been the person screaming it because no one is noticing. So that's like the call you make when someone's fallen over or something like that, or that, I once saw someone break their sword on someone's face. That was quite funny. Terrible. It was funny because they were fine. I think the funny thing was that they then had a spare sword and then broke the same sword on the same person. So that was particularly funny. But yeah, and I'm just thinking more about things like that and how shit role-playing is for that sort of thing, and how I think especially high combat role-playing, and that's the thing I'm thinking about a lot right now, because I know I've talked about that a lot of the games I play are high combat, but right now I wouldn't be able to. Strangely, actually, the do you work out question is relevant because I can't walk for that long and I can't run, and that's going to be a big problem for being able to participate in games. And I've started to think about what other characters I can play. Unfortunately, my what's ended up as my main game, whilst it is still relatively high combat, is better in terms of having other dimensions to it. But again, it depends a lot on who's running the game, because different organisers run different games in that system. So it may well be that there's sometimes that I can go and sometimes that I can't go, and I'll need to think about, there's characters I can't play anymore. I'm definitely not going to be able to dance around as a French revolutionary duelist. That's not going to happen. I can't go running back and forth as my character who's a healer and also does a load of fighting as like a sort of skirmishy fighter as well. But there might maybe times that I can do that. So then are there characters where I can play that I could do that if I wanted to, but then people aren't going to become dependent upon me. But that also depends a lot on what everyone else is playing and what the game is like. And the thing with LARP is that the game is so unpredictable. And this is one of the really interesting things that I'm like thinking about. with everything I've been reading today is there's been a lot of people saying, well, the thing is, you cannot write in any kind of role-playing game, being a tabletop role-playing game or LARPing, anything where you collaboratively tell a story, at no point can you, even as the organizer, i.e. the person who writes the adventure you're going to go on, you don't know exactly what that game is going to be, because you can't predict what everyone is going to do. You might have an idea if they're people that you know well and that sort of thing. You can predict if you know, for example, that they're people who like to solve puzzles more than they like to sort of be immersionist, do what their character would do, then you can assume that they probably will go hunting down whatever clues you put in front of them. But you don't know how they're going to do that. You don't know when they're going to do that. I've run games where people have completely ignored effectively the big flashing sign I've put in front of them and have gone, that thing over there is really interesting. And so and it's hard because there are times where you want to be able to go, sure, let's go down there. That's really hard when running a LARP, because what you've got effectively with a LARP is you've got you break it down into encounters, which might be better described as scenes. So a scene might be a room where they find where a murder has happened and investigate that. And then another scene might be where they get attacked by bandits. This is a very strange game if these are all in the same place. And that sort of thing. So if you get to that murder scene, and you sort of set it up with the clues where you expect them to go down to a warehouse where you expect those bandits to be. There you go. We've made this make narrative sense. But your players get in there and they go, oh my goodness, they were wearing a tabard from this guild. We must go and investigate that guild immediately. You can't. Because you can, but it might take you a while. You might have to suddenly run out to your crew and say, hey guys, do any of you know about this guild's roleplay? Can we go and set up their guild hall or whatever it is? That sort of thing. Because you suddenly have got to produce a scene that you didn't prepare for. In tabletop role-playing, that's a lot easier because it's just you, the one person, you can make it up on the fly. And that's, I think, where tabletop role-playing can do differently interesting things. I was going to say more interesting, but obviously there are different strengths to each medium. In tabletop role playing, if you want to run off to that guild hall to investigate it, cool. Like I probably already know what's there because I've designed the world, and if not, I can make it up and then run with it in a way that I can't when LARPing. And when you're running a LARP game, you have this awkward decision of, am I going to let you pursue the thing you're interested in, which obviously is always the ideal because you want the players to have the agency. The alternative is I try and force you into the thing that I think you should be doing. And I've sort of done both, and both have been successful and unsuccessful depending on different points. And sometimes I like it when players run off in the wrong direction because they're wrong. And you can punish them for it, which then leads to them sort of slinking back and going, oh, maybe we should have gone to the warehouse in the first place. And you go, yes. But yeah, it's really interesting to think about, and I find studying role playing interesting in the same way that I find studying mental health interesting, because I've got so many examples of my own embodied experience for both. And I've got so much experience role-playing that it's really interesting at last I did not hit record today. Oh, well. Sorry, that was my eyes just landed on the record button and I went, oh no. That's fine. I can download it from Twitch. It's just not a good quality. I need to write a checklist for when I start these now. I'm remembering to start my captions every time now, and to do that correctly, but apparently I'm still learning with other things. But yeah, so it's a lot of fun. It's really interesting. I'm very tired now. I'm not really sure, like we're almost done here. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the rest of today. It may be that I default to putting some more notes in. Let's see how far I've gotten. you can see how far through. So that's where I'm up to, but obviously it's not quite the entire book that's got notes in. It is almost the entire book. There you go. So here is the it doesn't look like I've made any progress at all. The smaller bit is what I've got left to do. From digitizing my notes. Obviously, I've also got all the notes that I've made from reading this week in this book, which is my, I've shown that one before. You're just going to get a parade of notebooks. This isn't my replacement PhD notebook because I'm obsessed with notebooks. But yeah, so I think I'll just sort of wind myself down slowly. I also haven't every day done all 3 hours. Some days I've done, 2 hours, 45 minutes and gone, I've finished this article and I'm kind of just done with this now. So that's the thing I'm trying to do, because I understand that's a thing people do normally and that's okay. But I'm so pleased that I've gotten through this whole week. And I have done some studying every day. I was late one day, and I've done, not 100% of it all the time, but I'm never going to do 100% of it all the time. And I think if I go into it assuming that, then, I'm just going to feel awful about it perpetually. And I'm so pleased that, because yesterday I was in a lot of pain as well. I was really struggling focusing. I was just getting things wrong. I managed to add 600,000 together twice and get 1,200. Let's not analyse that too deeply. I think it's... I mean, to be fair, I just multiplied 600 by 2 and got to 12,000 and forgot that it was 1,200 and forgot that it was actually 120,000 rather. See, I can't even explain it now. That's how I was just in a fog yesterday and it wasn't coming out correctly. And I got through it all and I actually managed to produce some work and some studying that wasn't complete trash. So there we go. But yeah, so this is the last time I will do this until Thursday, because I'm not going to do this through my weekend. So I will see you again on Thursday morning. I don't know what I'm going to do then. I probably will continue, because if I'm going to stop reading this book now, I'm only actually, 50 pages into it? I think it's about 200. So I think I probably will just try and churn through that. But also on Thursday, I've got doing this, and then I've got my mentoring. I also at some point need to email my supervisor. I need to go through doing my disabled student allowance application for my PhD. So that might be something I talk about on Monday as well, because I think it's a thing a lot of people aren't aware of, especially the fact that I really didn't think I was going to be able to get it for a PhD. It does depend a bit on where your funding is from, but I did check and I'm self-funded, so I am allowed to get it. So yeah, I need to do that application. I need to, that's the thing I need to do. I need to get a doctor's letter that actually has an up-to-date list of all my conditions on it, which is a thing I need to do anyway. This is a thing, I think one of the things that I don't know that able-bodied people understand is how much fucking paperwork there is. There is so much paperwork in being disabled. And it is just relentlessly proving what your disability is, which can be really demeaning. This is obviously getting into a whole separate topic. I'm not going to let myself start ranting about this now. We'll be here for the entire rest of today. But yeah, so there's a lot of paperwork. I obviously can't show you it because it just contains all my personal details, but I'll talk through what it involves and that sort of thing. Why I'm doing it now when I'm not starting until January is a big thing. Because basically it takes a while to go through. You have to do interviews and stuff. I think the interviews are remote right now. I'm very lucky that I've got a lovely support and wellbeing advisor at my university. So I was able to email her and say, can I even get this? And also, what does the application process look like if I do? So she was able to answer questions for me, which was really nice. And yeah, maybe we'll go through that as well. And I think really my main goal is to just do another week of this. And I think the hardest thing is at some point it's going to go wrong. I'm going to miss a day because I won't be able to do it for some reason. And the day after that is the one that really matters. So let's celebrate the fact that I've done this 5 days in a row this week. I will see you on Thursday, and hopefully we will get all 5 days done. And if not that, I will come back the day after whatever problem it is causes me to miss one. I think that's my bar for success. So thank you all very much for coming, and I will see you all on Thursday, probably wildly early. But yeah, I may even start telling people about this at this point. We'll see. All right. Bye.